I still remember the sound of gravel under my shoes that morning, the kind that crunches sharp and dry in the Colorado air. I was 16, standing in our driveway in Cedar Ridge, watching my dad wave at the neighbor kids as if he owned the whole street. The strange part was how he never looked at me the same way. Not once. And even then, I wondered why a father could smile so brightly at the world, yet keep his daughter in the shadows of her own home. Before we continue, kindly comment the city where you are watching from and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story like this. Now let's continue. Ethan came jogging out behind him, bright red Broncos hoodie bouncing with each step. Dad ruffled his hair and said, "Ready, champ?" "Always," Ethan said, grinning. And I stood there with my backpack in hand, waiting for someone to acknowledge I existed. It didn't come. You'd think a person gets used to being invisible, but you don't. You just get better at pretending you don't feel it. As years passed, that pattern grew roots. Birthdays? Ethan's were productions, complete with ski trips to Aspen or surprise parties at that lake house in Dillon. Mine? A grocery store cake and a, "Sorry, kiddo, things are tight right now." Holidays? Ethan got new gear, new plans, new praise. I got silence or chores. Mom tried. She really did. She would slip me notes saying things like, "You deserve so much more," or kiss the back of my head when Dad wasn't looking. But even her warmth couldn't erase the imbalance that shaped our home. And when she got sick, everything tilted beyond repair. Dad didn't just lose a wife, he lost the only person who reminded him that parenting included 2 children. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and found Dad on the phone. His voice was sharp, colder than usual. "I'll handle the paperwork," he said. "Itana doesn't need to be involved in this." He hung up quickly when he saw me. "Don't eavesdrop," he snapped. But I wasn't trying to. I was simply walking into my own home. Back then, I didn't know what paperwork meant. I didn't know what he was signing or forging or planning. I only knew the way his eyes avoided mine, like he was guilty of something he didn't want to face. Still, the real blow came later. One evening, the air smelled like pine and cold stone. I had left my bedroom door cracked because I couldn't sleep, and I heard laughter drifting down the hallway. Not soft or warm laughter, the kind that slices, the kind that tells you it's at your expense. Ethan's voice carried first. "She'll never know. She never pays attention to anything." Dad laughed louder than I'd ever heard him. "Exactly. She's always been too sensitive. She'll get over it." Something inside me sank, heavy as wet sand. I pressed my ear closer and heard Ethan say, "And the insurance money? You're sure it's all set?" Dad replied, "I told the agent she agreed. No one checks these things closely anyway." My pulse kicked hard enough to make my breath shake. I didn't fully understand the words, but I understood the betrayal. Mom's insurance, signed without my knowledge, used without my consent. And they were laughing about it. I stepped back from the door, heart pounding, palms cold. The walls of the house felt tighter than usual, as if they were closing around me. How long had this been happening? How much had they taken? How much more would they take? I asked myself the first of many moral questions that would haunt me for years. At what point does silence become agreement? When I lay in bed that night, the ceiling looked like a map I couldn't read, full of cracks, shadows, and questions. And even though I didn't have the answers yet, something inside me whispered a warning I couldn't ignore. If they were willing to steal from Mom, what else were they capable of? And why was I the only one who seemed to care? I turned onto my side, clutching the blanket under my chin, and felt a strange mix of fear and clarity wash over me. Dad and Ethan weren't just playing favorites, they were crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but the echoes of their laughter clung to me like smoke. And I knew this was the moment my childhood ended, because in that hallway, in the dark, I realized something important. My family wasn't just broken, it was dangerous, and I wasn't going to stay silent forever. Thanksgiving at the Maddox house always looked right from the outside. The driveway lined with parked cars, the porch light glowing warm over a fall wreath, the smell of roasted turkey drifting into the crisp Cedar Ridge air. Neighbors would pass by and say things like, "You Maddoxes really know how to do family right." If only they'd stepped inside for 5 minutes and listened. I stood at the kitchen counter that afternoon, mashing potatoes while football blared from the living room. Ethan's friends had come over, loud and carefree, their laughter mixing with the commentators shouting about the Broncos like it was life or death. Dad sat in his favorite recliner, one hand on the remote, the other wrapped around a beer. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and glanced at the framed photo of Mom on the wall. She was smiling, eyes bright, holding a pie she'd made herself. The picture was taken during a different Thanksgiving, one where the house felt softer, safer. "Etana, bring out the rolls," Dad called, "and don't burn anything this year." I bit back the urge to remind him I'd never actually burned anything. Instead, I pasted on that quiet, half-smile I'd learned to wear, the one that said, "Sure, Dad, I'll be who you need me to be so you don't notice who you've turned me into." We all gathered around the long wooden table when the food was ready. Turkey, stuffing, green beans, cranberry sauce from a can that still bore the ridges. Ethan sat at Dad's right hand, as always, his plate overflowing. I took my usual spot toward the end, near the wall, where the draft from the window always found me. Dad cleared his throat. "All right, everybody, let's do this quick so the food doesn't get cold." Ethan smirked. "Real sentimental, Dad." "Hey, I cooked all day," I said quietly. "You could at least pretend we're grateful." Dad shot me a look. "Don't start, Etana. I bought the groceries, didn't I?" I let it go. I always did. We bowed our heads, and Dad muttered a short blessing that somehow still managed to mention Ethan's hard work and bright future twice. When he finished, forks clinked, conversation rose, and for a few minutes, it almost felt normal. Almost. Then Ethan tapped his glass with a fork. "So," he said, eyes shining, "I've got an announcement." The table settled. I set my fork down. Dad leaned back, grinning. "Go on, son, tell them." Ethan smiled wide. "I booked a family vacation. Key West. Beachfront hotel, jet skis, the whole thing. We're finally getting out of the cold." A chorus of impressed voices followed. "Wow, Ethan, that sounds incredible." "Man, Florida in the winter? That's smart." "Look at you, big shot." My heart stuttered. I looked at Ethan, then at Dad. "You booked a vacation?" I asked. "For all of us?" He hesitated. "Well, yeah. I mean, obviously we can't bring everybody. Just close family." "Close family," I repeated. "So, you, Dad, and who else?" Ethan glanced at Dad, then back at me. "Me, Dad, and maybe a buddy if there's room," he said. "It's a tight budget." The air inside my chest turned thin. "So, not me," I said. Not a question. Just a fact. Dad rolled his eyes. "Etana, come on. Don't make a scene. You know money's been complicated." "Complicated?" I stared at him. "You used Mom's insurance to pay for a beach vacation and that's complicated?" The whole table went quiet. Dad's jaw clenched. "Watch your tone. This is not the time." I felt the room tilt. "What are you talking about?" one of Ethan's friends whispered. Dad's voice hardened. "This vacation is for the family. Ethan deserves a break after everything he's done for us." "What has he done?" I asked. "Went to college, played football, existed as your favorite." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "You're ruining dinner, Etana." I looked at him, steady. "Dinner was ruined the moment you decided Mom's death was your ticket to paradise." Someone gasped quietly. The turkey steam rose between us like fog. Dad leaned forward. "That money needed managing. You don't contribute, you don't help, you don't carry this family. Ethan does. I invested where it mattered." There it was. Truth sharper than any knife on the table. "You think I don't contribute because you never bothered to see what I do," I said. Dad's lip curled. "You'll get over it." And that was the moment something in me cracked. No sound, no theatrics, just a quiet break that felt permanent. I stood, chair scraping against the floor. "This vacation you're so excited about," I said. "Enjoy it." He smirked. "We will." I let a small smile show. "Because this vacation will be the last time you ever laugh at me." I walked out of the room with their confusion hanging behind me like smoke. The night after Thanksgiving felt colder than any winter I remembered. I lay awake staring at shadows on my ceiling, thinking of all the things they'd taken without permission. My mother's memory, her money, my place in this family. Silence wasn't protection anymore, it was permission. I rose from bed and made a choice. Dad's office door creaked softly as I opened it. The air inside tasted like dust and old coffee. His desk sat cluttered with envelopes, receipts, bills, noise meant to hide the real secrets. The spare key slid from its hiding spot behind the thermostat like it was meant to be found. Inside the filing cabinet, I found folders labeled taxes, utilities, auto, Ethan's expenses. Not one with my name. But behind the last row of files was a manila folder with no label. The moment I opened it, my pulse thudded. Mom's insurance documents, forged signature, mismatched strokes, transfers to strange accounts, withdrawals that made no sense, and then a flash drive taped to the back of a folder marked Archives. The drive felt cold in my hand. I plugged it into Dad's laptop. One folder, pending, inside. Everything. Emails with someone named R. Callister about rerouting payments, signature consistency, and asset registration under primary beneficiary. Scanned images of Mom's documents, bank transfers, wire instructions. And then the biggest blow, a property contract. Miami Beach, oceanfront, under Ethan's name, purchased with Mom's stolen money. The realization hit me with icy clarity. Dad didn't just erase me emotionally, he erased me financially, legally, deliberately. He built a new life, for himself and Ethan, on the ashes of the one Mom tried to leave me. I copied everything: phone, backup drive, hidden email, evidence scattered into every digital corner I owned, enough to burn their perfect world to the ground. I stared at the condo documents and whispered, "Perfect, a vacation home." It wasn't anger anymore. It was purpose. The copper lantern smelled like butter and rosemary. Dad and Ethan talked loudly, bragging about Key West and the ocean breeze waiting for them. I sipped my water quietly. Then, between appetizers and dinner, I said it lightly, "I can't wait for our vacation." Dad exploded in laughter. Ethan smirked. They thought I wanted to tag along. I wasn't talking about their trip. I was talking about mine. While they laughed, I tapped my phone under the table. The email draft opened, thousands of files attached, every conversation, every forged document, every transfer. I pressed send, a small, soft whoosh. "Etana, lighten up," Dad said. I smiled. "I am." 2 days later, inside Denver International Airport, people rushed around us. Families, travelers, business people. Dad strutted ahead, Ethan rolling a brand new suitcase behind him. I stayed quiet, a few steps behind. At the security checkpoint, a TSA agent scanned Dad's ID. Then 2 officers approached. "Gary Maddox? Ethan Maddox?" Dad laughed nervously. "What is this? Some kind of prank?" "It's not a prank, sir. There are questions regarding property and financial activity in Miami-Dade County." Ethan froze. Dad's face drained of color. The airport noise dimmed around us like someone turned down the volume. Dad stammered, "There must be a mistake. You have the wrong people." They didn't, and when he turned toward me, slowly, painfully, his voice cracked. "Etana, what did you do?" The question hung heavy. I didn't flinch. "You should go with them," I said. Ethan's suitcase tipped over, wheels spinning. Dad's jaw trembled. The officers led them away. I walked through security, alone, calm, steady. My boarding pass didn't say Key West. It said Miami. Straight to the condo they bought with stolen love. When I stepped out of the taxi in Miami, the humid air wrapped around me. The condo tower shimmered in the sun, Glass, steel, luxury. I walked through the lobby with the copied access code. The condo door opened with 4 beeps. It was empty, pristine, untouched. Inside a vent, hidden behind a false cover, I found the safe. Inside the safe, I found the envelope. My name written in Mom's handwriting. Etana! I carried it to the window and opened it with trembling hands. My sweet Etana. If you're reading this, I've hidden this letter because your father cannot be trusted with what belongs to you. I read every word. Mom knew Dad planned to steal the money. She'd moved 60% of the insurance into a trust in my name only. The lawyer's card was enclosed. Mom hadn't abandoned me. She'd protected me, silently, powerfully. Mom knew, I whispered, and she trusted me. I tucked the letter close and stared out at the ocean she'd never get to see, and in that moment something deep inside me settled. Justice wasn't coming. It had already arrived. I flew back to Colorado with the letter pressed against my heart like a second heartbeat. By the time I reached my house, news had already leaked. Fraud, forged signatures, seized assets. Cedar Ridge was buzzing with whispers. Dad and Ethan came home days later, not triumphant but deflated. They walked through the door like men returning from a battlefield they never trained for. I sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee. Ethan hovered near the counter, pacing, phone buzzing with unanswered calls. Dad slumped into a chair across from me, his leather jacket looking like it belonged to someone bigger. His voice cracked first. "We have to talk." I stirred my coffee. "We do." He swallowed. "Our accounts are frozen." I nodded. "Yes." "The condo's gone." "Yes." "Ethan's name is on all of it." "Yes." Ethan spun around. "Dad told me everything was legal." Dad barked, "Quiet." But Ethan didn't stop. "You said Mom wanted you to control the money. You said she trusted you. You said—" Dad's voice broke. "I told you to keep your mouth shut." Silence fell sharp. Then Dad looked at me, eyes suddenly small, almost frightened. "How did they know? Who gave them those documents?" I held his gaze, calm, cold. Someone must have sent exactly what they needed. His breath hitched. He understood. Finally. "I didn't think you knew," he whispered, "or that you would care." There it was, his real confession, not the crime, the assumption. "You erased me," I said, and expected me to stay grateful. He bowed his head. "I made mistakes." I shook mine. "A mistake is forgetting milk at the store. You forged Mom's signature. You stole her future. Mine too." Dad's face crumpled. "I should have treated you better. I should have listened to your mother." His regret filled the room like fog. He looked up, broken. "Etana, I'm sorry." I stood, pushing the chair back, the legs scraping the floor like a final judgment. "Sorry doesn't rebuild anything." Ethan's voice cracked from behind me. "What are we supposed to do now? Everyone's talking about us, about me." I turned toward him, my voice steady. "Maybe figure out who you are without Dad doing everything wrong for you." He swallowed hard. For once, no smirk, no swagger. Dad reached out weakly. "Please, don't leave." I paused at the doorway. "I'm not leaving," I said quietly. "I'm stepping out of the shadow you kept me in." His face fell, hollow, and I walked away. 2 days later, I stood in the hallway with my suitcase at my feet. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a shell. Echoes, memories, warnings painted into the walls. "I'm heading out," I said to the room. Ethan stopped pacing. "Where are you going?" "Away from here." Dad looked up, eyes red. "You don't have to go." "Yes," I said. "I do." He blinked. "Is it because of all this?" "Dad," I said gently, "all this is why I stayed as long as I did." Outside, the winter air bit at my cheeks. I loaded my suitcase into the old sedan Mom bought me, the one Dad never touched, never even remembered existed. Before I left town, I drove to the cemetery. Mom's headstone was dusted with snow, pine branches swaying overhead. I knelt down, brushing frost from her name. "I found your letter," I whispered. The wind rustled softly like an answer. "You saved me," I said, "and I'll make sure what you left me becomes something good." I placed the letter at the base of her stone, a quiet exchange between past and future. Back in the car, I opened the glove compartment. Elliot Granger's card was there, next to the trust packet with my name on every page. 60% of everything Mom left. A future built on love instead of theft. For the first time, possibility didn't feel like a dream. It felt like an open door. I started the engine, watching snowflakes streak across the windshield, each one melting into the next. As the town of Cedar Ridge faded behind me, a question rose in my mind. What does freedom feel like when you've never had it? I didn't know, but I was ready to find out. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Funds are ready whenever you are. E.g." I smiled and whispered to myself, that was our last family vacation. The mountains in the distance glowed under the gray sky, tall and certain. And the only one, I added, I ever enjoyed. I pressed the gas gently. The road opened in front of me, and I left the Maddox curse behind forever.